50 rigs, and each rig has, you know, I think there's some studies done that each rig supports so many hundreds of people. So we had a lot of people show up all at once, and they were, our county fairground wound up leasing half the fairground to travel trailers.
Yeah, looking at a map of the well caps, I noticed that the largest cluster was actually directly under the Binghamton, New York Southern Tier region, which means that whatever occurred in Pennsylvania is going to replicate if that passes. I mean, regardless of, you know, whether it's a weaker price or not. But also being in Binghamton, New York, Albany, areas around here, especially Binghamton, we rely heavily on out-of-area population, labor, skill. Especially Binghamton is a business-oriented city, and an increase in those motel prices, hotel prices, housing prices, especially with our demographic being an older population, I think people should really look at the extended economic impacts of this project.
Two impacts I'm curious about. One, I had stepped out when you talked about home prices, home values. Because I know somebody who lives down in fracking territory, and they wanted to move out. They couldn't get a decent price for their house because nobody wanted to live next to that thing. And that's one of my big concerns, is that if I want to get some value out of my house, for example, maybe I want to move away, and I won't be able to sell my house or get a decent value for it because nobody's going to want to live there. Another concern is I was out in western Wyoming when the gas rush happened around the time of Pinedale, and they had rents just skyrocketed. And locals who'd been there forever and their families who needed a place to live, the locals were priced out of the apartment market.
About that.
Yeah, because the rentals went sky high.
And maybe a comment.
One last impact. I also saw in Pinedale, Wyoming, where the people who came in there from out of town, kind of a roughneck sort of culture, and the other thing that went sky high was meth use. They became the most prominent meth addicted county in America.
That's outrageous.
It's pretty well known that meth runs a lot of that industry. I mean, like you said, these people are running 24/7. You know, it's hard to do that. You know, that's how they keep soldiers away.
Those are the three impacts I wanted to ask.
Just maybe to wrap up on the socioeconomic piece. We've had a number of sociologists they're studying rent. And one of the things that they observed, like there was a study, I think, of 90 different boom bust communities. And out of that, approximately 80% of those communities are worse off after the bust than they were before the boom. And so, you know, the take-home message is, you know, understand what could or couldn't happen and plan for that and do it in the way that and that's really what our advisory board is struggling with is okay, how do we make sure that we're part of that 20% that's better off after they go away? Because you're right. I mean, housing is a premium now. Once everybody goes away, are we going to be left with lots of houses that we can sell? The same thing with motel rooms and a lot of other stuff. So really, you know, this has happened over and over again in lots of other communities. Pay attention to it and plan for it. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the social things, but my biggest concern is the water withdrawals. Have you noticed problems with SRBC is allowing them? I think they're nuts to allow all this. I mean, that's my personal opinion. Have you noticed, like in August, the creeks look dried up?
They shut them right off as soon as those flows get down to a certain critical point.
And so they have to stop the whole thing?
For the water withdrawals, when that water level gets lower, they shut those withdrawals off.
Even though the industry is screaming, we've got to do this now, we're in the middle of it.
They shut them off. And I've seen them do that.
So you haven't noticed the creeks getting too low or drying up or anything?
No.
Okay.
Quite the opposite lately is that they've been too full.
Mike, do you know what the fact is as far as when hydrocarbons are burned, specifically natural gas, how much water it returns to the environment?
I've seen those figures, but I couldn't.
5 times. 5 times.
Let's just take one. We'll just have time for one more question.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned, that's part of it now, there's that split estate routine going on, and we're first generation to do that, because in Bradford County, people predominantly own their mineral rights, they hadn't sold it off like they do in some other areas, so that's a whole kind of side industry that the lawyers and everybody are doing now, is splitting those. Yeah.
I guess I just wanted to follow just kind of one question that I had was, I mean, you listed out the committees you did for your task force. I mean, obviously, I mean, we've had a lot of time to think about this at this point, you know, we've really had a lot of time sort of to prepare, I guess. But, I mean, when did you start your task force, committee, and do you wish, you know, is there something differently you wish you could have done?
Well, we started our task force as soon as we saw the landmen starting to buy things up. We figured, okay, something was up, and that. So we got, you know, it would have been nice if we got started sooner to start to educate the public. And we had a lot of public meetings at first where we get 400 or 500 people show up to talk about the drilling process, to talk about road impacts and how we can mitigate for those. So there were a lot of big educational efforts, and our universities, Penn State helped quite a bit on holding those. And those were good things. Like I said, the only thing that we missed the curve on was the leasing part of it. If we could have done more education of our landowners on what to prepare for as far as the leasing. Once they were all leased, though, the process, I think, you know, it helped a lot of people understand, you know, what was going on. You know, I often find it interesting that I think the clamor about it seems to increase the further away from where we're actually experiencing it. So, for what it's worth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan.